morning, good morning, good morning, or good night. I don't know, it depends on where you are, what you're doing. Well, be well, be proud and honest and love. I trust you are going to have a great day, and I love you. Now, let's go ahead and get into this. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the block, the Leon block that is. You already know what it is. Make sure you have hit that subscribe button, because I'm always, every day, every single motherfucking day. We're here, we're live. Now, we could talk about appropriation, but we all have ideas of what appropriation, cultural appropriation is, and what comes to mind when we think of that. I mean, what comes to mind for you when you think of cultural appropriation? But also, not many people think about the fact that all of these global north, or as I just blatantly say, all these white countries, yes, I know that there are people of color in these countries. I'm gonna call them white countries because these places call us a white country, and we don't have all white people, but white people dominate this country, do they not? So a lot of these global north, Western European countries, whatever, former colonial powers, I don't think many people think about the fact that they still, okay, so when they were colonizing, pillaging, taking slaves, whatever, they were also taking artifacts. I mean, throughout history, that was something that was always done. When you conquer lands, you loot, rape, and pillage, right? But I think white people always took it to, well, Europeans always took it to the far left, right? And here we are centuries later, and a lot of these, much of these, if not almost all of these artifacts are still in these European countries. And lately, African countries have started to ask, straight up ask, like, can we have our stuff back? And European countries are like, no, see, it's legally ours because it's here. And it's like, no, but that belongs to us. It clearly belongs to us. And they're like, prove it. So that's kind of where things have been. But as of as of the other day, 26 looted colonial era artifacts are to be displayed in a French museum one final time before they're returned home to Benin in what officials in Benin say is a historic milestone. And I'd like to think the same thing. This this is for me, this is a long time coming and it's much needed, and we need to see more of this. If not, they need to give all that shit back. Not just France. I mean, not just France. Belgium, Germany especially, the UK especially. They need to give back the artifacts that they've stolen, because they've stolen it. People need to follow the path of France. It's only fair. And so at least that there's a another looted statue being returned to Benin, other than that the 26 piece collection that I was just speaking of. So that's pretty cool, but it still is indicative of kind of what I wanted to get into. Like, they still everything, and I feel like in many ways that's still the case, and it's perpetuated in many ways that a lot of people may not really pick up on. You feel me? Um, and I feel like that's part of the problem. So I got some articles here. You already know me as usual, and I'm gonna post them into the comments, and then we're gonna get into dissecting this stuff, because I mean, really, I want to talk about uh, first of all, whiteness and what exactly it is, where it came about, why. And first of all, do white people have a culture? I want to know what you think, but I'm inclined to say yes, but no. Um, what say you? Oh, and white people don't like living near black people. I mean, sounds about white, if you ask me. Uh, that's root, from the root. Uh, I'm really iffy on some of the things they post, but I feel like they're on to something with that in a sense, for sure. For some reason, some of the Jones ain't posting, but whatever. I'll get to that later. So yeah, white people have no culture. As I said, I think that's relative to what, not only what one thinks culture is, but what one thinks of appropriation. And that idea is harmful, but not in a way that you would expect it to be. Um, has anyone ever heard anyone say this? It, I think that depends on who you are. But this is not a one-off here. It may be in a well-intentioned slightly mocking way by a non-white friend, or it could even be a self-deprecating white person who thinks that stating as such makes them seem woke and supportive of non-white people. White people have no culture. Mm, yes, they do. But since it was enforced through centuries of colonialism, this culture is regarded as the default. I think that sounds about white. But people don't think about it that way because they're programmed to see and think and feel white as the default. But still, everywhere, white people themselves may joke about their apparent lack of culture as they admire their Indian friend's lunch or their black friend's box breeds. It may be said in good faith as just a bit of fun to ease that awkward tension that so many white people experience when the topic of race or cultures they find unfamiliar come up. I think personally, if you're white, you should really start to question and challenge those stereotypes yourself. And I think it would shed some of that uncomfortability being in those kind of social situations. As someone put, that kid you were imagining in books like Ronald Dahl's was white, unless you were told otherwise, which you never were. The men paraded on the TV show Crime Watch were described as black when they were black, and short or tall or thin or fat when they were white. Think about it. That's a standard. You don't hear them, and this goes for news, this goes for media in general. You don't ever hear a black person described by their stature, their build, features necessarily, just that they're black. When a white person is described, rarely their race is described, their features, what they do, the things that they've done, their accolades, things like that are talked about. And subliminally, that instills a level of importance in one and not the other. That white is the default. And that would suggest that white people being the default have no real culture, I guess. But what is culture? The arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. The ideas, customs, and social behavior of a particular people or society. That is culture. So it could mean theater, Shakespeare, Baroque paintings. There is white culture. It's just about the way that you go about thinking about it. But there's so many things in society that point to white people being the default, and I think white people dance around that and just go to other things and poke fun at the blandness of things to soften the blow that they have in at least an American capitalist society, given up that for in exchange of being higher on a certain hierarchy. We're so used to white culture that it is not viewed as a culture, but rather the culture, with any others simply being novelty add-ons. Nowadays, these niches like Hispanic culture, Black culture, Arab culture, they get our attention from time to time. We may have Black History Month or National Hispanic Heritage Month, but it's always White History Month. I guess for some people, white still feels like an absence of color, an absence of food that is different, an absence of who pronounces your name differently from the way that your friends do. Mm, very, very deep shit for white people, I think, to think about and pick apart. But also think about and pick apart the other side of things and what I was mentioning about stolen artifacts. And those things need to be given back. But that's also it's also not a physical thing either, you know? There's a lot of things that have been taken from us that have never been acknowledged, um, or were handed back over. And we don't just need the things that hold spiritual value that are physical objects, but also the spiritual energy that has been taken from us that we deserve back, and that can come from simple acknowledgement and love and compassion from a group of people as a whole, you know, a real acknowledgement. But I mean, that has only happened a few times in history, like South Africa and other places. Truth and Reconciliation. Article from the Daily Trojan. White people, white people take everything from Black culture, but the burden. Drop it in the comments, y'all. How White People Got Made, which is a series on whiteness via The Message. 11 things white people need to realize about race. I have the two articles from the stolen looting. I guess there were some other actual block drops I wanted to do, but I will drop them in a separate podcast because it doesn't seem right. But these were just some random thoughts on my head, and I just wanted to pull up some things. It started with seeing the article of the stolen artifacts getting sent back, and I remember seeing a documentary about it earlier this year and last year as well. And just like, yo, like this needs to happen on a massive scale. And I don't understand what the fucking problem is and why this would even take so long and why they could even how could they even get away with justifying any reason for why they should continue to keep these things, and how African countries are not just being like, oh fuck no. But that was the case. I think also what needs to happen is public pressure on these countries to do such a thing. It's not anything that's ever talked about uh, in a way that's mainstream for people to really pick up and understand it. Like
where your cell phones come from, or how your cell phones are made, or who sacrifices their life to give you the technology that you have. People don't really think about that. And then when they find out, they don't want to think about it. They don't want to know. And I will say myself, being that I can definitely relate to that in a sense. You know, I mean, I have a cell phone. But for real, we need to really start, all of us, asking ourselves these questions. White people, asking yourself about your whiteness, asking yourself about appropriation, asking yourself about, do you have a culture? Do you do you want, for real, like, do you want one? Because sometimes I feel like you don't. Sometimes I feel like you don't want to know what it's like to be a person that is on equal footing with everybody else, because it's a clear it's clearly shown and perpetuated throughout societies, not even just here in America, that white people are that default. And a lot of white people, so they know this and they show it and act it through many different in many different ways, and don't, when it's called out, they don't acknowledge it, but when they're doing it, it's acknowledged. Does that make sense? Interesting article about black men having the lowest life expectancy. Um, More importantly, black men have lost 3 years in life expectancy over the past 2 years. I think that's an interesting, it's a deep article uh, that came out a little over a month ago, that I will share in the block drop coming up soon, with a few other news articles. So um, definitely stay tuned for that. I am gonna get ready to get out of here because this has been like 20 minutes. Definitely stay tuned for the next one, y'all. Be good.